Hey everybody, Mike Miller, Herald Times, joined by columnist Jeremy Price, coming to you from the United Center. Short stay up here in Chicago. You could probably plan for that at this point with Indiana after a 79-75 loss to Ohio State in the 9-8 game. This event has been troublesome for Indiana over the years. If ever there were a season, and as weird as this season has been, if there ever felt were a time this team might be due, I guess maybe you could even go back to 2016. But it just felt like maybe this would be a year where they might be able to get over that hump, play, I don't know, 3 games this weekend, but
just play 2. They
haven't
played 2 in 16 years.
They played 2. Or they haven't won 2.
They haven't won 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, they haven't won 2 in, what, 2003, I think it was?
This is Indiana has now been banished from the Big Ten tournament. They're not welcome back. Probably music to everybody's ears. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody from IU would complain about that.
Yeah, it's just another disappointing development in this strange, still unfolding season. After a 4-game winning streak, really repositioned Indiana back on the bubble. Had an opportunity to get on the right side of that bubble here today against Ohio State, and slow start. A departure from what Indiana was able to do and did well over the last 2 weeks. Really undid Indiana here today.
Yeah, it really was, unfortunately, a return to late January, early February form. All those bad things, the slow starts, the sort of disconnected, bad turnovers, poor shot selection, all those things were back in full effect in peak Big Ten tournament form, I guess you might say, for this Indiana team today. And still, after they get down 20 points, they actually turned this into a game. And pretty much when all of us had written this thing off as over, all of a sudden Indiana comes to life. And that's probably the most maddening part of it all is, if it had just been like the first 33, 34 minutes, you'd have said, well, typical Indiana Big Ten tournament, whatever. And then they come to life those last 6, 7 minutes, and you're just like, where has this been? What took so long? How do you flip a switch like that and go from looking so blah to looking so good in those last 6 minutes?
Yeah, it was such a microcosm of the season, really. I mean, to just finally reposition yourself, recalibrate, and get within a possession. I think they were within 2 late. But obviously, cutting a 20-point deficit down to 3 in the final minutes. The shooting of Devontae Green, who had a career-high 26, and even Evan Fitzner off the bench, those 2 right there really spurred the effort, getting Indiana back within a workable margin after, like you said, after this Indiana game seemed long over. Devontae Green just continues in these big games. He continues to surface. He's having a heck of a run to close the season. Where Indiana goes from here, we're not sure. We'll talk about that in a moment. But again, when all else was lost, when Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan were combining to go, 4 for 6 for, no, I don't even, 3 for 12 maybe? 3 for 12 in the first.
3 for 12 in the first half.
Yeah.
Yes.
When there was just no help outside of him. He was the one thing really keeping this game from really the one thing keeping a 20-point deficit from creeping into focus sooner than it did.
Yeah. I mean, this game, Indiana was down 7 at the half. They were sitting there 7, 9 points down most of the first part of the second half. And it felt like they were hanging by a thread. I mean, it felt like a lot more than 7 or 9 points they were down. And then they actually did get down by a lot more than 7 or 9 points. But, yeah, for the longest time, it was strange in the sense that Ohio State seemed to have the stranglehold on this game. It was being played their way, their pace, their style. And Indiana was kind of just hanging in, like you said, largely because Devontae Green would make a shot every time Ohio State sort of threatened to run away with this game. But yeah, you mentioned Langford and Morgan just kind of were not big factors for the most part. Juwan got going a little bit in the second half. I thought, Rob Finney was largely MIA today, and that was as big as anything. He's the guy that really I give a lot of credit for the way things have turned around and the way Indiana's played lately, and he just never could get into any kind of rhythm. For whatever reason, it's how Ohio State plays defensively just seems to bottle him up. They tend to put some bigger guys on him. That seems to give him a little bit of trouble. He wasn't shooting the jumper with much confidence. It wasn't until, like most of the rest of the team, about that last 8-10 minutes that he kind of got aggressive, and then he got benched, and that led to the weird Indiana lineup actually producing the comeback. Devontae Green, Evan Fitzner, Al Durham, Who else was in there? Duran was in there quite a bit. Just it wasn't
Strangely fitting.
Yeah, no. I guess Romeo was in there a good stretch of that as well, but Juwan Morgan was on the bench most of the comebacks.
It's a solid 5 of the last 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So just all the way around, just weird.
And yet it could get even weirder from here. You would think, and certainly this seemed to be a play-in game for the NCAA tournament, just given the direction of this season. Certainly Ohio State too, right there on the bubble, and had some nice wins. And certainly this will set them up for another nice win tomorrow, or another opportunity for a nice win tomorrow against Michigan State. But with the Indiana perspective, we were talking about this back in the workroom that I guess when you look at Indiana's resume, you look at the 6 quad 1 wins, you probably still can't totally eliminate them. There's probably still a slim chance. And who can say, like, as you're saying, with the new net ranking system this year, we're not just not sure how this is going to play out, especially when you look at those weirdly compelling qualities of Indiana's resume. And yet, Archie Miller talks after the game about how this team has it has scheduled the way it needs to schedule. It has won games against tournament teams. But yet, it's hard to really make that case today. It's hard to make that case after you're given a tournament game, a tournament atmosphere against a tournament team, and you come out and play like that. I mean, yes, we know that Indiana can play well. We know that Indiana can flip a switch and play well and beat teams that are ahead of it in the Big Ten. But again, they got to show it, and they got to show it when it matters. And to really make a firm, compelling case for the NCAA tournament, they had the opportunity to do so today. And if I'm on that selection committee, I don't know how I reconcile the 6 quad 1 wins and not take into consideration the way Indiana just completely failed to rise to the moment here in Chicago.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of compelling evidence, not a lot of historical evidence that the committee is going to look favorably on a team, first of all, with 15 losses and only 18 wins, being sub 500 in conference play, and going through a stretch of 12 losses in 13 games. But, there's not a lot of teams that have put themselves in that conversation with that kind of resume either. But, is there a chance? There's always a chance, but I don't think there's much of a chance at this point. I think a 1 or 2 seed in the NIT is more likely to be what's beckoning on Sunday night.
Yeah, I've gotten some questions from folks even asking if they would accept an NIT bid. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'd accept an NIT bid.
Look, there's a team that hasn't been to the postseason, but hasn't been to the NCAA. This will be 3 years running, most likely. And the last time they were to the NIT was that infamous trip to Georgia Tech a couple of years ago. And, well, this team's not in that situation. And this team's in a situation where you need some, take some postseason play if you can get it. Try to build some momentum towards next year.
Yeah, I mean, they need it at this point. I mean, you're going to lose Juwan Morgan. You're going to lose your most important player. You're going to lose your best player very likely in Romeo Langford potentially leaving after the season. I mean, after this year, after this weird year, this absolutely disappointing year, I mean, you'll take momentum wherever you can get it. Again, I think it'll be hard to get up for an NIT game if you're an Indiana fan. But, to a man, that is a group that it sounds like at least they want to keep playing. Whether that's just saying the right things or really meaning it is another thing. But, at this point, I think that...
I think if you came to this point having lost 12 of 13, keeping on playing would not be such a positive option. But I think the way this team has played over the last couple of weeks, that there's much more reason for it to be motivated. That said, I think when it comes to the NIT, if you knew how it was going to play out, you'd know better kind of how to answer that question. I think it's very difficult for a team like Indiana to get going the first game or two of the NIT. If you can get through that first game or two and get to the point where it starts to turn into some sort of a run and you start to feel like there is something to be playing for, something to be gained, that there's a trip to New York City in the NIT Final Four potentially there, I think the snowball starts rolling. But the difficult part is to get it started at the beginning of the NIT.
Yeah.
And how that's going to play out, matchups play a factor, all those kind of things. But I think most likely, in this case, Indiana's going to be playing at home, unlike a couple of years ago. They're not going to turn that opportunity down, I don't think. So,
a few reasons why they wouldn't turn it down this time, I think. We could very well be seeing more Indiana basketball. It's certainly not going to be the stage that anyone anticipated going into the season or anyone thought or hoped for even coming into this weekend. But it doesn't appear the season's over just yet. It's just a matter of where and when. And
look,
what they're playing
if
for.
they somehow do get in the NCAA tournament, I don't think there'd be any question that they'd be at Dayton in the first four at this point.
Oh, without question.
So if they're either way, if there's going to be more basketball for this team, it's going to be early next week instead of later next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, most likely.
Yes, indeed. So it is only Thursday. As I packed for 5 days. I know
Why
better.
do you do that?
Because I don't want to be the guy wearing dirty, stinky clothes on Sunday. Now don't make a comment about my normal getup. But I packed.
Says the guy in the banana shirt.
I want to. Hey, thanks a bunch for recognizing that. Thanks a bunch. It's my new thing. Time to stop packing for. I do it every year. Because you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared.
Underpack and then just plan on buying that extra set of clothes for the finals. Get you something new. Just plan on that and see how it goes. You're probably going to be safe anyway.
All right, another weird, disappointing, whatever you want to call it, Big Ten tournament has ended for Indiana. Back home, potentially another game back in Bloomington.
We'll see.
If and when it happens, we'll see you there.